Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, Blizzard finally dropped the trailer for Season 3 1 week before the season actually starts. It's going to be called the Season of the Construct. And whenever I saw the 14-second trailer or teaser, or whatever you want to call it, that they released on Twitter last week, which was basically going through these grinding gears, everyone was associating with Path of Exile, which was the exact same thing I thought when I first saw it, because I've got a couple thousand hours in Path of Exile, so I saw the gears and I was like, PoE. But then when I started analyzing afterwards, I was thinking Zoltan Kuhl, because he was the only one who created constructs. If you remember back in Diablo 3, we had these guys, which are these dark Herodric constructs, but they're the only real mechanical enemies that we were having to face that I could remember off the top of my head. So I was like, okay, if we have machinery and everything, to me it looked very Zoltan Kuhl. So that's the first thing that I thought of, and lo and behold, that is what our season is going to be about. So we're going to have a whole quest line dealing in Khaldun from, Diablo 3, and we're going to basically be going down this whole quest line dealing with Zoltan Kuhl's, technology and everything that he came up with. Remember, he was basically the bad Herodrum that was making the Black Soulstone. We had to kill him and take the Black Soulstone from him, yada yada. That was all back in Diablo 3. Now we're just kind of going through all of his other stuff that we'll find out whenever we actually start the season next week. But we are getting a battle companion. So it's this little spider looking dude here, and he's basically going to have these governing and tuning stones. So governing are going to be like your major stones, and then tuning are going to be your smaller stones that go underneath. This is what their tree is going to look like. So you're going to have 2 governing stones, and then you're going to have 3 tuning stones that go for each governing stone, and it's going to basically improve how good the stones are. And you're going to be leveling these stones to make them better. So kind of like how we did with the vampiric powers, where you level them to make them stronger. Same thing's going to happen with your tuning and governing stones. So that is kind of cool. As you can see, they all have a 1 on him here for this. Now, note that they have Genesis and Evernight here. So we have this list of the governing stones and this list down here, which is quite long, of the tuning stones, but there's 2 tuning stones that they put in that we do not know exactly what they do. The fact that they put them in here means that A, they're probably going to be pretty good, and B, based on just the little text they have here, basically they're going to be extremely strong, and they're supposed to be above mortals' capability to wield this power. So obviously we're going to wield it and we're going to kill everything with it, right? Now, I went through and I was reading some of the governing stones that would be the most ideal. Is going to be mostly using Protect, because it's going to give you a protective barrier for a portion of your life. So obviously more defensive. It's going to make you survive any of the endgame content that much better. Also, Tempest, because Tempest is going to put an electrical charge on them, and if the enemy is killed, it spreads. And whenever it spreads, it does bonus damage. And if your companion reapplies it to somebody that already has Tempest affected on it, it does more bonus damage. And then we have the tuning stones, which are what's going to buff your governing stones. You're probably going to want to use something like Safeguard, which is going to give you damage reduction, and you're going to want to tie that with your Protect, because whenever you get the damage absorption bubble, you're also going to get damage reduction. It's going to make you extremely hard to kill. But what are we going to use with Tempest? Arcing support makes so it hits multiple, it can arc to more enemies. Multi-shot makes it so it shoots off multiple projectiles. However, registered damage support makes it so the damage that they have taken from that ability, which would be Tempest, or there's another one up there called it's like lightning or something like that, or yeah, lightning bolt. That one can also arc to other enemies as well, right? But this one makes it so that whenever they take whatever damage they take, whenever they die, they explode for fire damage to all enemies around them for that much damage. Now, if it's spread to multiple enemies because of arcing support and multi-shot support, and then it blows up, all of those enemies are going to start blowing up in a chain. It's going to be a huge explosion. If you played Path of Exile and you've had an explodey chest, it's probably going to feel quite similar to that. So that's going to be pretty cool. Now, I don't know for necromancers if it will explode them to the point that they don't leave a corpse, because that would be very bad for any kind of, any necromancers, to be honest. So that will be something I will let you guys know whenever the time comes, because that would suck. Unfortunately, we don't get PTRs, so we don't get to test these things, but I have a feeling that it will probably still leave a corpse. Otherwise, they'll probably have a day 1 or day 2 patch to fix the fact that it wouldn't be leaving corpses. Again, Evernight and Genesis, we don't know what they do, but they're probably going to be extremely strong. Now, the vaults is what we're basically going to be getting once you hit World Tier 3. You're going to have vault keys as well as your Nightmare Dungeon keys. So the keys part of your bag is going to get very full very fast, because vaults is where you're going to go and you're going to get your tuning and governing stones, as well as probably leveling them up. And it's going to level up, you know, just like the vampiric powers or your glyphs level up, where you just got to go, do the dungeon, get the experience, and off you go. While you're doing these, you also are going to be having these things called Pearls of Warding, which you can basically be blessed by Zoltan Kuhl's warding, which is going to basically, if you don't hit traps as you're going through the dungeon, it is going to give you bonus rewards at the end. But also they basically said in here, it has a higher chance of granting legendary items. We get legendary items like they're falling out of the sky already anyways. I wish this would say granting unique items. So higher chance of granting unique items would have been a lot more appealing to the player base, especially if there was uber uniques within that as well. So just granting legendary items is not a big deal, since once you get a rare item, you slap an aspect on it and off you go anyway. So the itemization is something they still need to fix, which I believe is coming in season 4. So not yet, but hopefully the following season. We're also going to be getting obviously the gauntlet and the leaderboard. However, it is not coming until later in the season. It's not releasing on week 1 like everyone had thought. So I feel like this is actually a hindrance for the leaderboard, because anyone who plays 16 hours a day is going to now have all best in slot gear by week 2 or 3, and is going to be sitting at the top of the leaderboard every single week, because they get paid to play this game. Anyone who goes to work and only has 2 to 3 hours a day to play the game is going to fall behind and going to have a lot harder time getting to the higher tiers on the leaderboard, and it's just not going to feel as good as it could if it released week 1 and everybody was on a level playing field. That's one of the things with like Path of Exile. Whenever they release the new season, everybody is getting all the same content at the exact same time, and they don't release mid-season content because the people who know life the game are going to be miles ahead of the people who don't, as opposed to where everybody starts off fresh on a level playing field. That's what the whole season was supposed to be. This is going to make it so that it's going to be hard for people who don't play permanently in the game and basically live in Diablo to actually place within even the top 20 or 30. Definitely not the top 10. So this, I think, is a bad thing, but it was probably a coding issue is my guess. Quality of life thing. So Hell Tides, again, like I said in the last video, are going to be every hour. 55 minutes out of the hour is going to be Helltide, 5-minute break, and then it's going to start up again for another 55 minutes in another region. So you can just chain Helltides, take a 5-minute break to get a snack, go to the bathroom, whatever, and then go back to chaining Helltides. Huge upgrade. I think this is great, especially since they put in the living steel to be able to summon bosses to eventually fight Duriel, but you had to wait for Helltide to come up, and then you were only able to get maybe like 6 to 12 or so of the living steel, depending on how efficient you were at farming the cinders. Now, we're also getting WASD movement for keyboard players. So if you prefer WASD movement, if you're coming from an MMO, 100% this is going to be a life changer for you, because you're going to be more used to moving in that fashion. If you're coming from an ARPG background, you're used to moving with a mouse anyways, so it might feel a little weird, but you don't have to. You can still use the mouse to move around if that's what you want to do, but you have the option now, which I think is pretty nice. We're getting a new stash tab, which is just going to cost gold, so it's basically free. That's also cool. So, I mean, you can hold more aspects to reroll and upgrade gear. Respec is getting a respec mode, so you can place all of your points and then hit confirm. So you do not spend any gold until you hit confirm. So once you enter respec mode, so if you're copying a build guide and you're like, hey, this guy does a lot of damage and I want to do a lot of damage, so I'm going to copy his build. So let me go in and place all the points. Oh, I screwed up. Let me take that one point out. Right now, it costs you gold. But this way, it's not going to cost you anything until you hit confirm. So you can make sure all of your points are correctly placed, then hit confirm, and then it takes all the gold out. So this is going to be a huge quality of life. Also, it can help you to, read through and create your own builds if that's what you want to do. And I think this is going to be a very, very welcomed quality of life change, especially for people like me who like to create builds. So I'm really excited about this. Next up, we have the seasonal armor for the battle pass. So this is what it looks like. It's very steampunky. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks better, in my opinion, in both season 1 and season 2. I really didn't like season 2 armor at all. Season 1 actually looked pretty good, but Season 3 is looking better than both of them combined, in my opinion. This is what the horse is going to look like, which is also got a steampunky feel. He's got like a little canister back here. He's got the gears and stuff. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's got some electricity coming off. I'm wondering if when you're running, if this is going to streak backwards and leave like lightning lines coming up behind you. I think that would look pretty cool. And then we have this armor. Let me move myself. Boink. So it is a samurai-esque armor, as you can see by the shoulder plates. He's got like a katana-looking sword here. Obviously, he's got this big old dragon over here. And yeah, it looks pretty cool. If you're a person who likes to buy armor, then here you go. By all means, you have a nice, cool armor to pick up and make yourself look cool. And finally, here is the trailer.
Welcome, Wanderer. I sense that recent events have brought you to me. These are strange times indeed. So many fear the inexplicable. I deal in it. And you seek answers. This will lead you to the knowledge you desire. Legends state this rune is the missing piece of an arcane construct. A mighty weapon capable of harnessing ancient power for the one strong enough to control it. But be warned, for the construct is buried deep beneath Kyrgyzstan in the ancient vaults of Zoltan Kur. Untouched for centuries, they are protected by deadly traps of Kul's own design, and guarded by his mechanical horrors. But the architect Zoltan Kul overestimated his cleverness. In his hubris, the mage abandoned his work, leaving darker forces free to corrupt his machinations and claim the vault's power for themselves. The answers await you in the depths. Take the rune if